to this interesting guy by the name of Constantine, who's widely misunderstood. In 312 AD, he set out to defeat the forces of Maxentius, his rival, the supreme power in the empire. His father had prospered when he prayed to the God of the Christians. And so he in his extremity resorted to the same action. We're told that on the next day he saw a shining cross in the sky with the inscription of it, in hoc signo vinces, that is, in this sign thou shalt conquer. Whether this really happened or whether it was a clever press release afterwards, it's up to you to decide how cynical you are. But in any case, he does defeat Maxentius at the Northern Bridge, and that he immediately declares his conversion to Christianity. At least that's the way the record says. Other record says he was baptized on his deathbed. So whether he really was converted or not, or whether he just took advantage of this as a public relations thing, is a subject that scholars argue about. But in 325 AD, he issued his Edict of Toleration that established the freedom of religion. This was a big break for the Christians, because up till now, Christianity had been an illegal underground movement. He did not make it a state religion. He simply made it legal. He favored Christians at court. He exempted Christian ministers from taxes. He issued a general exhortation for subjects to become Christians, so this is all the positives. In 330 AD, he moved the capital of the world to Byzantium from Rome. Rome was so up to its ears in pagan traditions, he decided it would be simpler just to move the capital of the world out of there. And he moved it to a place called Byzantium, that then he renamed Constantinople. It later gets renamed Istanbul by the Muslims when they take over altogether. But Constantine has quite a record where you try to see what he actually did. He ceased the gladiator fights. He stopped that. He reduced the killing of unwelcome children. He abolished crucifixion as a form of execution. He repealed the persecution edicts of his predecessor Diocletian. He assumed the headship of the church. He's the one that impaneled the Council of Nicaea and so forth. He advanced Christians to high offices. He declared Sunday as a day of worship. Now, by the way, this is widely misunderstood. There were three major groups of sun worshippers operative at that time in the empire. You had the Christians that were illegal, that were coming out of the caves. By declaring Sunday as a combined day of worship, it was his way of trying to unify the empire. Because he had three different groups of sun worshippers that could share that day. The Christians could worship on that day, and the big news was the slaves had a day off. That was a big deal. They didn't have a day off. Constantine forbid work on Sunday, and that declared it as a day of worship. And so he also reduced slavery in a lot of different ways. So the marriage was consummated between the world and the church. Because what happens is after Constantine dies, Julian takes over, and he is known as Julian the Apostate. The Julian calendar, same guy. He sought to restore paganism. He was not favorable to the Christian cause at all. But he is replaced, after just a couple of years, by Jovian, who reestablished the Christian religion. So this attempt at paganism was just two years, then Jovian takes over. And then we get to Theodosius. And he's the one that made Christianity the state religion. That caused forced conversions, and suddenly all the churches were filled with unregenerate people that had an ambition to rule, that were used to heathenism. And we have now a commingling of Christianity, or at least a form of it, and the paganism that was operative throughout the culture. So this is regarded by most scholars as the marriage between the church and the world. A perverted marriage. Heathenism was Christianized. The pagan temples became churches. Heathen festivals were converted into Christian ones. This December 25th thing we call Christmas, is really a derivative of pagan holidays. All they know about the birth of Christ was that it wasn't in the winter, and so on. I won't go down all that. Pagan priests slipped into the office as Christian priests. Most of the changes were simply nomenclature, giving these Christian names to their previous practices. So what the persecution didn't accomplish in Smyrna was accomplished in a marriage to the world. If you can't lick them, join them. Satan changes his strategy. Trying to crush the Smyrna, didn't work. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church, according to the early fathers. But then making it a state religion, destroyed it.